In this video, we're going to replace this bearing, okay? It's the front right wheel bearing from this 2009 Ford Ka. You'll notice the camber here is at 0, right? And after we replace this bearing, we're going to see if that camber stays at 0 or not. I think it might vary a little, but it should stay within the manufacturer's spec. If you're not subscribed and you like this content, subscribe so you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. Watch this video to the end because I'm going to share several gems and lots of tips, both for car owners to better understand how this works, and for those who replace parts, suspension, shocks, or bearings, and also for anyone working with alignments. So don't miss watching the whole video to the end. If you think the video is long, set it to 1.5 speed. When you reach the good part, slow it down to normal speed and keep watching. Here's an important tip for those of you who work in this field. People ask if you can do mechanical work on a lift. I do it often. Always use jack stands for safety after lifting the car. I'm using a 32 kilograms electric impact wrench. It really helps. As you see, it can even remove the CV joint nut. If you're interested, I'll put the link in the video description. Since this car doesn't have ABS, I can push the brake caliper oil back into the reservoir. If it had ABS, we couldn't do that. So you can see that we're going to disassemble this vehicle here. It's very simple and quick to do. We can quickly release the brake caliper. We also put the flexible hose there to keep it aside, and it makes access easier. So you see it's a little tool. I consider it very cheap. It's functional. I have 2 of them here in the shop, and man, it helps a lot, okay? For those of you interested in a good and cheap little impact wrench, that one is well worth it. Replacing this bearing is simple, right? Loosen the brake caliper, ball joint, tie rod end, center nut, and the steering knuckle comes out. Without equipment, it's very difficult. People ask if you can do this at home. It depends. If you have the tools, you can. All right? I have the tool for the steering knuckle, but didn't need it. It was already loose and came off by hand. Just like that. Wonderful. So here it is. We have the steering knuckle off the vehicle now, okay? It was pretty simple to disassemble, right? Of course, with a fast, sped up video, it looks even simpler. And so what happens is, look, I'm going to spin the bearing and put the microphone right next to it so you can hear the rumbling, okay? Like I said, this bearing was already rumbling even before I recorded the previous video for the channel. So here we go. I'll bring the camera closer. Let's place the microphone here. And now for the detail. Look, to remove this bearing is simple. The detail, the secret is in the assembly. Because if you assemble it wrong here, by one detail, you can damage or greatly reduce the bearing's lifespan. I've seen people in this area replacing parts. Guys who've done this for years. And when it's time to install a bearing like this, they do it wrong. Also, this car has no technology, right? No ABS, So the bearing has no specific side. It can go in either way. We're going to continue the procedure now on the press. Removing the bearing is simple and easy. If you have the tool shown here, look, there's a detail. You'll see in this video that when removing this bearing, it came out stud to the wheel hub, which made life difficult. But we have a tool to help. You'll be able to follow the procedure. Look, it came out completely. Without the tool, how do you do it? Clamping it in a small vise. Using this tool, which is leaking air. So I'll tighten it. Leak is gone. Good to go. A simple, cheap tool that helps a lot. I'll leave a link in the video description. If you're interested, it's very helpful. The bearing came out without getting stuck, without damaging the steering knuckle. In this case, the bearing was already shot, right? Look at that, beautiful. People ask, is it easy to do? Easy and hard are relative. It depends on setup, knowledge, tools, and space. You know? So sometimes what's easy for me might not be easy for you watching this video. So here, a very important thing before putting the bearing in is to clean the steering knuckle, okay? Or the spindle. Some people know it as a steering knuckle. Others know it as a spindle. So we have to clean it well here with thinner, degreaser, penetrating oil, that kind of stuff, okay? And here's a super important detail, okay? Which is, before you install the bearing in the steering knuckle, this here is the steering knuckle, okay? Before you install the bearing in the steering knuckle, you have to be sure that the bearing is the exact same one you took out. So you have to measure the height of the bearing, see? Same height. You have to measure the outer diameter of the bearing, see? The outside here. It's the same bearing. And you need to measure the inner diameter, okay? Because after you press the bearing into the steering knuckle, once you press the bearing into the knuckle, if this measurement isn't the same as the bearing you removed, you're going to have a serious problem, okay? The bearing will be ruined. There's no saving it. When you try to take it out, you'll end up breaking it. So here I check everything, see? The width, the outer measurement, and the inner measurement. So this is the exact correct bearing for this vehicle. And like I said during the video, or at the beginning of the video, since this car doesn't have an ABS system, the bearing isn't directional, okay? It can go in this way, or it can go in this way, alright. Now we'll clean and start assembly. Be careful not to install it wrong, or you could greatly reduce the bearing's lifespan. Worse, sometimes right after installing a new bearing, if you use the wrong procedure, it could start making noise immediately. So now you can already see here, look, that the bearing is seated, okay? So for the center of the bearing here, look, there was zero force. Zero. We didn't force the center of the bearing at all, okay? and then it bottomed out. In this case, the strategy changes now. Since we now need to fit this hub into the bearing's axle, I'll have to apply the pressure. Instead of applying pressure on the outer edges of the bearing, I have to apply pressure on the center race. Okay. Why? What's going to happen? Look, this hub axle will rest here in the center, see? And now, I have to keep the bearing free here, see? So for the pressure now, I'll actually have to do this. First, I'm going to find a piece here to put to support the wheel hub. Let's see. Find it here. Now let's see. This one. Right here. This piece goes right here. Look, and here's why. Now, the hub goes on top here. See? So we don't force the studs and don't dislodge the studs. And now I need to apply pressure to the center of the bearing. So the whole time I start pressing here. Let's go. Let me get a shorter piece here to keep things nice and organized. Get a shorter one. This one here. There. It's centered in there. Now let's get another little piece. These are just parts one find at the junkyard. Check this out. Right on the center of the bearing. I'll bring the camera closer. Oops, this went straight through. It won't work. It needs a slightly larger diameter. Let me find the old bearing race. Here, I'll take the old bearing race, put it on top. I'm going to clean it up a bit here. Look. I'm going to put it on top here. And I'm gonna put a bigger piece on top of it. Later, I'll bring the camera closer so you can get an idea. Let's see. There. Right there. I'll zoom in on the camera later. It got high up here. It got tall here. Ready? Just look. Just a little more. Here. Right here. So right now, I'm going to start applying pressure to the center of the bearing. Just look. Let's go. It fits here. More towards the center. Start downloading. There. You'll see that we're now pressing down on the center part of the bearing. And the axle housing is free. So I'm going to start fitting it in, you see? Just fit it together nicely. And it's free here, right? If I press on the outer parts of the bearing, it would seize up. That would put too much strain on the bearing and significantly reduce its lifespan. So look at this. Go ahead. How lovely, how simple. Until he finally agrees. It weighed heavily. See? Everything's fine here. Just a little more pressure, okay, done. It's solid, without any slack. He forced his way into the center. Now I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. Let's go. Then you notice the bearing is topped off. He's got a pressure there of more than 4 tons of sufficient pressure. You can see down here, I placed a piece to hold in the center of the cube to avoid putting stress on the slabs, to avoid disassembling the slabs. Here I put a piece of the old bearing housing on top of the inner housing, put a stronger plate on top of that, and then secured it. You see, he works nicely. So I've seen some people, grab and apply pressure to the top of the axle housing to fit this cube. What happens is that you overload the bearing during the assembly process. Break time equals 0.5 s / you put too much stress and pressure on it, and this significantly reduces its lifespan. So this is the correct way to mount the wheel bearing in this case. So now we're going to carefully take it off from here, and then I'm going to mount it back onto the car so that we can closely observe and see exactly what happened to the vehicle's camber. It's all nice and neat, all put together all right. On some cars, before you put the hub on, there's a washer here, a clip, right? That's not the case with this car. This car doesn't have a clip here. You see, the new bearing is in place. Zero play, of course, and it's nice and firm. All right? Starting reassembly, I put in the upper bolt, fitted and tightened it, and will continue. Note, this ball joint has lateral movement. Sometimes people think this is a problem, but it's not. The ball joint, like a tie rod end, needs lateral movement. It has to move. It has to rotate, okay? What it can't have is movement or play in this direction. See, it can't have displacement this way, or actually this way. But this tilting and rotating movement is normal. Now, if it moves up and down, and there's play, if it is play, it has to be replaced. In some cases, with the car assembled, you won't notice it. So, when you take it apart here, you can test it to see if it has any up and down play. So if you look here, we'll go to the Aligner's Guide app. We're going to look up the vehicle again here, okay? Oh, let's type here in search. We'll put in Ford Ka. Okay. A little space here. Let's see. 2009. Hydraulic steering. Okay. Front. You see, its camber can go positive up to 0 degrees 24 minutes and negative down to 1 degree 6 minutes. So it's at positive 0.15, which is less than the positive 0.24. So it's within specification, okay? So here we have a perfect camber on the car, okay? And what was the pressure we applied to this bearing here to do the camber? 0. We didn't apply any pressure at all. We took the car that already had a blown bearing, corrected the camber with the blown bearing, and then put in the new bearing. So here we have an alternative, right? We have an option in some cases. And you see that when we got this car here in the previous video, okay, we had a negative camber. Look at this. -1 degree 45 minutes. Maximum adjustment with Cyborg per manufacturer is 1.5 degrees. I took the camber in the last video from -1 degree 45 minutes to 0. So I adjusted it by 1 degree and 45 minutes, which is more than the 1.5 degrees recommended by the Cyborg manufacturer. The Cyborg's manufacturer, their specialists and engineers, say a camber of up to 1.5 degrees is fine for this car, where the bearing and hub are separate parts. I can go up to 1.5 degrees. So that's with a good bearing. In the previous video, the bearing was shot. I pulled 1 degree 45 minutes, and it still didn't break the bearing. Alright? So that's it. This video will end here. If you liked it, click like, comment, share, and subscribe. When we post a new video, you'll be notified. Maybe soon, more videos will come out with this car. Because this car is mine, right? So I got this car, produced some content. I'm going to produce more content with the vehicle here, make adjustments, do tests, make content for both the online courses and here for YouTube. Then I'll sell it, buy another one and go do the same thing and so on, okay? So we're all going to learn together here, alright? And if you're interested in becoming a differentiated, qualified professional in the field of automotive geometry, I invite you to be part of our course from basic to advanced vehicle geometry. The link will be here. Look in the video description, alright?